5 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock. We are live in Liberty Square, home of the Occupy Wall Street movement. You know, all morning since we got here, we've been seeing buses pull up at this corner and disgorge passengers. And there's just something seditious enough in me to want to go to the bus, you know, right to the opening of the bus and just say, hi, welcome, come on through. Check the place out. We got a very special guest who is joining us. He has been here before, and he and his union are supporting the Occupy Wall Street movement. He is the president of Teamsters Local number 237, as well as the host of Reaching Out, heard Saturdays here on WWRL 1600. Good morning, Greg Floyd. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Mark. Good morning to you and all your listeners.
Yeah, you're out here early, huh?
Yeah, we came out early. We brought a crew. We're going to be filming. We're going to tape our broadcast for Reaching Out with Greg Floyd. We're going to listen to some of our occupiers here, and we're just going to find out why they're here. And we want to hear from them, and we don't want to hear from any of the media on their behalf.
You know, it's interesting, Greg. We were talking beforehand, and you said you would kind of stop consuming a lot of the media that portrays what's going on here in a negative light.
Yeah, I would propose to them that we start boycotting some of these corporations that we are out here protesting against for a week, just to show them exactly what the economic impact would be, because I don't think they care that people are out here protesting. The only time that corporations will stand up and pay attention is when they start losing revenue, like the Montgomery boycott of the buses that Dr. Martin Luther King led. The only way he changed that social situation of sitting in the back of the buses in Alabama was to boycott the buses. And after a year of walking and not riding the bus company came to its senses and gave in.
Yeah, they also went broke, didn't they?
Yes, they did. So that's the only way. You got to hurt them in the pocket, and that's the way you do it.
Absolutely. You know, one thing I find interesting, Greg, is that over the last maybe 2-3 weeks, we've been seeing these high-profile stories about people from Wall Street who have been convicted of crimes. The guy from the hedge fund manager, who I think is, I forgot how much time he's gotten, but he's getting time. There's a big story today about another guy who I think interacted with that guy who's been involved in inside trade. Do you think that what's going on here has had any impact on what's going on inside these courtrooms and the decision by some in law enforcement to go after some people?
I would say it heightens their awareness. However, I don't think you can apply that to law, because if the people didn't commit the crime, you couldn't convict them.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. The other thing is New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, along with Delaware Attorney General Bo Biden, are launching an investigation against these companies. They're really two of the pioneers who are going to get to the bottom of what happened. They're not going to accept a mere settlement from these companies. They're actually going after these guys. They want to know who knew what, when did you know, what did you do, how were you involved? So this campaign is already underway, and it was underway before the Wall Street occupiers came here.
Yeah, very true. And we also see, and we talked about it last week on the show, Citigroup reached an agreement with the SEC to the tune of about $285 million, which sounds like a lot of money until you realize that in the third quarter of this year, Citigroup made $3.8 billion in profit. So this is essentially the cost of doing business for these people.
That's right, and they will never give you the amount of money voluntarily and what they committed in crime. They will always keep the bulk of it. So if they give you $285 million, it sounds like a lot to us, but they've gotten billions off of this.
Yeah, they have. And that was, bundling mortgage securities, selling them to unsuspecting investors, and then turning around and betting against the same securities that they sold, which is the equivalent of somebody putting together a baseball team, telling everybody it's the greatest team in history, and then going to a bookie and betting against them, and they end up finishing last.
The Chicago White Sox back in the World Series.
The
Black Sox, yes.
Yeah. So, Greg, let me ask you, the solidarity that's been shown between unions and the Occupy Wall Street movement, where is it going? Where do you see it heading in the future? The people seem to be here for the long haul. I see some tents out here that make it appear as though people are ready to stay here through the winter, huh?
Well, yeah, it's my understanding that every week, every day, you're going to have a different group of unions out here just supporting the protesters, either financially or they're just going to come out here and give their moral support. But what I see is there are people who are not saying anything. At some point in time, I understand that this movement is going to evolve. It's going to evolve into something that everybody can participate in, and everybody should be ready to do whatever they can to keep this movement going and also affect social changes. What are those social changes? Changes to the tax laws where the rich aren't getting these exorbitant tax breaks that is ruining this country, because what we're suffering from is not a lack of money, we're suffering from a lack of tax collection.
Yeah, and we're also suffering from a concentration of money at the top of the food chain here. And I mean, at the very top.
And that's how they did it. They redistributed the taxes, and the very wealthy have benefited greatly from this.
Yeah, and I'm not sure people really understand. I have a story here I'm trying to access.
Here's a thought. What would happen when the Tea Party finds out that they have a lot of things in common with this Wall Street movement?
Yeah. It's an interesting, it's funny. People have tried to compare it before. Here's the story. Top earners doubled their share of nation's income. This is according to a study. Top 1% of earners more than doubled their share of the nation's income over the last 3 decades. I'm not saying this, folks. This is the Congressional Budget Office that's saying this. A new report. And when people start talking about trying to create jobs and reviving the economy, this has to, I would think, be taken into account.
Well, let's see what happened 30 years ago. Ronald Reagan came up with the trickle-down theory. Trickle-down theory has not manifested itself. It only trickled up, and the money stayed up at the top. So that's what we see in this country. See, Ronald Reagan and everybody praised him for breaking the Air Traffic Controllers Union. But what we saw back in the 50s, Dwight Eisenhower, who was a Republican president, said that this country did better when it was unionized.
Yeah.
And the unions made sure that there was a middle class. Whether you were in a union or not, the unions fought for your wages and set the scale for all wages. And we need to get back to that. And people that do not understand what unions do in this country, we're like the watchdogs of wages in this country.
Now, it seems as though there are a lot of people that don't understand what unions do. And, as a person from a unionist household, I find it kind of perplexing that the role of unions seems to be so misunderstood. I mean, one of the things they tried to demonize this movement with early on was, well, there are union guys involved in this. There are union people that have come down and joined with the Occupy, as if that in and of itself would demonize the movement. Where does this disconnect come from, do you think, Rick?
It comes from the corporations and the Koch brothers and their conspiracy theory to get rid of the last bastion of people who can go against whatever they're trying to accomplish. That's where this comes from. See, we wanted to be very careful as not to be labeled as Wall Street occupiers. This is a grassroots movement. This is not the unions movement, but we're here to support them.
Okay.
In their efforts. So that's where we want to make sure that this is not a union movement. We're here to support them. And we're Americans too, and we're supporting Americans.
We're going to come back, talk to more of you on the telephones at 212-868-0975, 212-868-0975. Greg, as always, great to see you, man.
Thank you very much.
You're going to be here a little later on this morning, right?
Yes, we're going to stay the morning. We'll be here till at least 10:30.
All right, fantastic.
Okay.
We'll be seeing you throughout the morning.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
We take a quick break. Stay with us. We're right back.